Archie coast, there's caribou in the distance. You know, I get comments like, I feel like I'm living in a National Geographic. As an educator, researcher, when you hear students sort of saying that and sort of projecting this aha moment in their life is like, you know, this is what I want to do in the future, is, you know, solve these problems. I want to be part of the solution here. As an educator, that's just so rewarding. When you can get that out of your students, that's when you know you're doing your job and you're making the difference that you hope to do as part of what we all try and do within ADAC and these types of efforts. But this effort that Andy Mahoney and myself are leading builds off years of previous experience that Andy and I have built up. Previously, we've taken sort of programs or student programs like this, not only to the Arctic but also to Patagonia, Antarctica and Borneo. So we're drawing on a lot of that previous experience of how to deliver kind of a cutting-edge, challenging, field-based research program to students, but at the same time kind of help them reach a new level, a level that they haven't operated at before, an experience they just can't imagine having, and basically bring all of this to life, but within the context that fits the mission of ADAC. We'll clearly focus on, you know, opening up, broadening the horizons, and just a range of different knowledge and field-based experiences for the students. But at the same time, the students will be out there with tape measures and rulers and pen and paper and a whole bunch of different instrumentation, actually collect data that Andy and myself will use for our ongoing research, trying to identify kind of ways in which humans might need to adapt in the future. And this is where the linkage to the core mission of ADAC and ADAC providing a service to the US Coast Guard comes into play. This capacity to really challenge our students to think much more laterally than perhaps what they used to, and to include coming up this notion of coming up with products for the operational entities is absolutely fantastic. I think it's one of the best things that ADAC has done for me as a researcher and as an educator. It's given me this opportunity to help train the next generation to meet their future challenges that they'll be faced with in a much more effective way.
So we came out here specifically to check the projects that we have out here in the tundra. So we have cameras installed here to look on the tundra, specifically the 50-meter transit. It's basically just looking at the ground and taking hourly photos and videos, monitoring the tundra.
My name is Jess Manning. I study environmental engineering at the University of New Hampshire. Dr. Craig Tweedy stood out to me because he seems to know everyone here, and he integrates well with the locals, and he just knows a little bit about everything, about all the research projects. So I was able to learn a lot about the permafrost, coastal erosion, and so on. Students coming to the Arctic should just be prepared to absorb all the information they can. Everything is so new, so going into it with an open mind would be very beneficial.
I really enjoyed going out to Point Barrow, taking four-wheelers. I didn't realize how far north of Barrow it was. It has been great being up here. I'm very encouraged by all the research and the interaction with the locals. I find that up here in Barrow that there's a great potential for agricultural research up here this far north, just to set the example for other northern communities.
Originally, I wanted to become a marine biologist, and I just feel like there's be ample amounts of research out here, and I feel like it'd be a crime for me not to take advantage of that. It just seemed like a great opportunity to get first-hand experience in research, but also just to get a different perspective, and I hope to continue to repay what I've been given as far as going further into Arctic research, and also hopefully publishing some papers, and maybe even in the further future eventually teach people.
I know that students today want to make a difference. They're very sophisticated in terms of their knowledge. And this project, overseen by the Arctic Domain Awareness Center, is part of UAA. And I had the opportunity to come in and serve myself. I'm really grateful. And to be able to come up here to Utqiagvik and to witness the kind of research that we're doing on the tundra. It's the first time that I've been out on the tundra, and what is astonishing to me is if you stop and listen, you can really see a huge variety of life here.
Most students, when you talk to them, none of them have even thought about doing Arctic research before. So beforehand, talking to them and trying to prepare them for doing Arctic research is kind of a foreign concept. For the most part, when you ask every student what surprised you the most or what did you not expect, and for most of them it was the entire experience, and especially the daylight for 24/7, the communities that live up there, cultures that live up there. Likewise, I'd only seen what I'd seen in pictures or what I've heard from other researchers or other students, and it's still something that you really can't conceptualize or even understand until you're really there firsthand. Kind of a main goal of the program in general is to really expose students to the Arctic research in general. Beforehand, we're really trying to prepare them to get ready for the elements and kind of the unpredictability of it. This experience is meant to really give you hands-on field research, but actually doing it itself was something entirely different for each of them. So I think before going up there, you know, you have the image of it being cold and snowy and icy. And then once going up there, of course, we were in there in the summer, but you see those seasonal changes and how quickly new wildlife comes in. I think it was pretty shocking to most to be in pretty neutral clothing and bogging around in the tundra and on the water rather than snow and ice. But I think the biggest thing for a lot of our students too was seeing especially all of the wildlife that was up there for a lot of our STEM students and the biology students that could focus on the number of different bird species that were up there or the number of different marine mammals that were there.
The Arctic Summer Intern Project was a unique opportunity for ADAC. We're the only center that has a geographic orientation. And for us, the Arctic is in our backyard. We have this great laboratory at Point Barrow, a mere 700 miles from where we're at right here in Anchorage, to orient students to things that are mission focused within the realm of the U.S. Coast Guard. So for example, we got to see quite a bit of how the North Slope Bureau does search and rescue, both at the professional level and at the volunteer level. We got to see, of course, how communities of Arctic research get conducted in the summertime with so many different researchers across the planet descend on the Barrow Arctic Research Center to conduct their various study regimes. This was a great window into that community for our summer intern students and allowed them a chance to interact with the local community.
A big part of the internship is to network with local federal partners, but also just to see from a search and rescue perspective what has to happen to really organize an appropriate search and rescue response. And one of the really fun things about going up there was being able to see firsthand the facilities that they have and talk to those people that actually exercise search and rescue on a regular basis. While some may have been from the U.S. Naval Academy or the U.S. Coast Guard Academy who had a little bit more exposure to some of these elements, there were a lot of students that had kind of really zero exposure to what search and rescue is or what any sort of operational research could be in general. And I think being able to go to the facilities and talk to the operators and talk to the local community members about search and rescue was really, really interesting because a lot of students had never thought of it. And then in that light, they can also take what they're learning and think about how it can be applied to real world scenarios and real search and rescue responses. There's an amount that you can learn in the classroom that is fantastic, but there's really nothing you can learn in textbooks that prepares you for what they experienced up there. So I think as far as a workforce development scenario, you really have to get the hands-on field work experience to be able to even kickstart experiences in search and rescue and field research.